So it's project time again. I'm not feeling like I want to do it, but we've got to replace the back door. So this is kind of the scenario right here. This is our front door. And in a mobile home, these front doors are 6 feet 4 inches. And the average door for a home is 6'8". So I want to install a door this tall for my back door, and I'll show you the issue I have there. So this is the back door, and you can see that the distance between the trim on the door and the crown mold is much more than in the front door. This door is even shorter. This is like 6'2". So to put a door in here, I'm going to have to cut about 4 inches off the bottom of the door. And I want to put in a steel door, so I have to cut the steel door. But first I need to get this trim off so I can see if a new jamb, the width for a 2/8 door, which would be 32 inches, 33.5 is what I'm going to need with the jamb to fit in this opening for width. So the first thing I have to do is take all this trim off so I can check this out before I go and, buy a door that I can't use. So this is the front door, and if you follow the siding from the door towards the overhangs on both sides, you can see that the top of the door is under the overhangs. So that lets me know that using the same size door on the other side of my house is going to work. And naturally I'll go back and measure the overhangs to make sure they're the same, but I know they're the same. And then I'll proceed with my installation. Well, I have to do some more work up there in order to make the opening large enough for the height. But I don't want to get into that until I have my other door ready to put into the hole, because I'll probably have to take out this door to do that. So I'm going to leave this door and I'm going to work on my other door, the new one, and get it ready so that it's all ready to go into the hole. But I need a couple of measurements here, and one of them is the depth of the jamb. They make homes with 2x4 studs, and then energy homes with 2x6 studs. These happen to be the 2x6 studs. In a manufactured home, you can see the drywall right here. That's 3/8 of an inch. In homes, it's a 1/2 inch. But I'm not familiar with what they're using for the sheathing on the outside, but I can see the flange. I don't know if you can see the flange between that metal jamb and the 2x6, but I can. So I'm going to stick a stick in there, and I've already done this, but I'm going to show you what I did. I'm going to stick a stick in there like so, and it's hitting that metal backside of the metal flange that's against the outside of the sheeting. And then I just mark it at the edge of the drywall, and when I pull it out, I know how deep to make that jamb. So I'll measure from this end of the stick to that line, and I'll know the size of the jamb. Well, this is the door I'm replacing. It's coming apart on the bottom. We'll go around this way. Right in here, it's coming apart. Right in there, let's see. You can see it's all mushy. And inside, when I was showing you the flange, that's this section of the door. This is the flange. You can see the screw. And that's the flange that we saw on the inside of the door where I pushed my stick in to meet the back side of the flange so I could see how wide I had to cut that, how deep the new jamb has to be, since I'm putting in a whole wood jamb system. So there's several ways to go about this. I went up to Menards. I wanted to buy a jamb for a 2x6 wall. You know, a new door with a jamb for a 2x6 wall, and all they stock is jambs for 2x4 walls. And I couldn't figure out why that was, and I didn't want to order another door, so I bought this. And then I bought a jamb extension kit. That's what's laying on the ground over there. And that would make it a jamb for a 2x6 wall. But even that would be just a smidge big. So if I did buy a jamb for a 2x6 wall on a pre-installed door, I'd have to cut the jamb down. So I'd have to take the brick mold off. And because I have the extension kit, I can rip those before I install them to the correct width that they need to be, or depth, and then I can install them on the jamb here. They're going to go right on this. So the first thing I have to do is take off this brick mold, rip those down, screw them to the jamb, and reinstall the brick mold. Okay, so I drew my line, marked it to my stick all across that edge, and I'm cutting off this front edge. Not cutting off the back edge, because there you go. You can see where this comes together. They make it look like some kind of a design. So I'm going to leave that because it would look better than just the average seam. That's why I'm cutting off this side, the top, right here. So now I need to rip those. I don't know if you've seen our videos in the past, but we have a video on altering our deck and refreshing it. We've got one on the shutters. We've got another one of installing base throughout our whole house and kitchen floor. And I think there's a few other projects you can find. Okay, so I ripped these. Now let's just see what this looks like. There we go. Exactly where I wanted it to be. And then I'll just take a block plane later after I install these and just kind of run the block plane one time over this to smooth it out. Although you can see how smooth that is. Yep, and I did that with a power saw, just so you know. But, you know, carpenter for 50 years, I ought to be able to do something straight as that with a power saw, I guess. Well, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I'm a believer in pilot holes. So that's what I just did next. Then I'm going to run a bead of glue down this, because I don't want any water to get between these two boards. I want that to make a nice seal so that we can't get water in there. I don't know if you've heard that other saw going in the background, but they're cutting these sonotubes and getting those in the ground. They're going to put in another mobile home over there. Okay, so I laid my bead of glue down there, and I'm all ready to install that extension. And if you're wondering what I'm using, it's this. this point I'm going to stop. I'm not going to put any screws in here because I'm not sure where I'm going to cut this yet for the new size of the door. And then if you notice, I've been countersinking these screw heads just a little bit because I'm going to put some caulk in there because I don't want any water to get into this stuff at all. Diane's turn. She's cleaning off the excess caulk from those grooves that squished out. And now I'm just about ready to install this one for the top. So you can see that it's way too long, but these extension kits are sold for 3-foot doors. So any door smaller than 3 foot, you've got to cut the headpiece down to fit. Well, the extension's on. If you're wondering about the screws I was using, those are the screws right there. They're 3-inch number 9s. I'll use those for everything I do with this door. So I figured out where to cut the bottom of this jamb. Now I've got to cut the angle for the threshold, but I can't go all the way through. It can't go any deeper than this side up here. So I have to use my power saw and then chisel that out. And these, you can get these out of your way. You can see they just slip into that little groove there. So they're easy to pull out and recut and put back in. Okay, I cut those notches. Now I'm ready to put the threshold back on. And I'll put a little bit of that glue in here also. Okay, so now it's ready for paint. I used a couple of screws, 3 of them, to screw that back in. Kept the screws low so they're not in the way of this adjusting rail. And then I put this extension on and I put a screw in here. So yeah, it's looking good. And then I laid a bead of caulk before I put this all together, but once I get the door in, I'll put another little bead of caulk in there. Anyway, this is ready for the brick mold to go back on now. Okay, brick mold's on. Now it's all ready to be painted. This is primed. This is that raw piece of wood from the extension that I ripped, so that'll have to be primed and everything. I did plane that down and, you know, put like a slight rounded edge so that wouldn't feel so sharp. So that's ready. So I moved the frame over here, took the weather strip off. So now Diane's going to paint this door frame up. Diane's priming up that raw edge. You can see the edge I'm talking about. That's the edge that I cut that, you know, wasn't painted, so she's priming that before she paints this up. So next up is this door. And I've got to cut some of the bottom off of this. I don't like these metal doors. Wood doors are so easy. So here's the weather strip. That just kind of pulls right off of there. And then there's this little track. So you can cut this door so that you can bend this track around this track to hold the weather strip, or there's another way that it can be done also, and I'm not sure which way I'll go with this yet till I really see what this pertains to. Well, I put this cardboard on the door. You can see my line there. I just don't want to drag my power saw over the door, so that'll protect the door from getting scratched by the power saw. And I bought this blade that I'm going to use to cut it with. It's a general purpose blade. It's an extra fine cut carbide tip. I paid about $19 for it. I could have bought a metal cutting blade for $49, but you know, I'm only going to cut this one door, so I'm going to see how this works. So I cut it, and I'm chiseling out that styrofoam, about 3/4 of an inch or so back. And then I'm going to put in a board. But there's another way people do this, and this is what I cut off. This is what that looks like, the styrofoam that would have been in there that I've been chiseling out. Some guys will take this piece apart so that they can get this track, and they'll put the track back in. And when you do that, you've got to cut this. You can't cut your edge where I cut it. You have to cut your edge a 1/4 inch past where you want to be, so that you can fit this. I got to reach down so you can fit that track in there. But I'm not going to do it with this track, so we'll just set it on the side. I've got a board here that I've been painting over here that I'm going to put in here, and I'll glue this all back together and clamp it. And this is the excuse me, this is the weather strip that went on the bottom of the door that goes into that track. And I don't know if you saw me take it off. It was pretty loose when I took it off. And that's your weather strip there. These couple of little things here. And I really like this better. You can see there's, you know, you've got these 2 places for it to sit underneath the door, maybe 3. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then no matter how you put it on, you've got this lip that kind of sheds the water away from the door. That's the kind I like to put on. So after I get this door back together, this will go on here like so. I'll just feed it on. See how I don't know if you can see that, widens up so that you can slide it on the door. So I cut the board, and I painted it, and I glued it in there. I glued both sides of the metal and in the back, and I'm just going to let that set up and dry. And then I'll probably put a screw in from this end and one from the other end into this board, and that'll be just great. And then I'll put that weather strip that goes over that, and I'll probably put some screws in there, and be just like new. So this is ready to go. Diane painted this up nice and pretty. So we'll install this, and then I'll fill up some of these holes, and we'll touch up the paint, and it should be ready to go. So remember that old sill above the door with the 2x6 blocks? You could go back and look at the the video. Wound up that I took out the blocks and then raised that sill up. And I'm sure that's just the way they framed up that front door when they put that in, because that's what I'm doing here, same kind of door. So I think we're just about ready. And that's the outside of the old door. You can see where I put in some screws to try and hold this together. It was falling apart. It's just a piece of foam in there. And it was always drafty, always. Especially at the bottom. So that's the opening. Just about ready to slap the new one in. Well, got the door in. I just need to get some insulation around there. I got one little issue on the outside that isn't really my fault. I'll show you. Put the locks in yet. Got the sweep on the bottom. Problem I have is that the other door wasn't really plumb, and they put that J channel up to the old unplumbed door. So now I've got that groove there. I don't know if I can loosen that up and move it over, or how big a deal that'll be, so I got to deal with that yet. Then I need a little playing around on this side near the top. And I have the same issue with that J channel that wasn't plumb. So when I put my door in, I used my whiskey stick and it's plumb. So I've got to put something down here yet and adjust my my weather strip. Other than that, I mean, if it rained, I'm good. Next thing is we just ordered a storm door from Lowe's that will fit this opening, so that's probably a week out. I didn't know. I thought they had them in stock, but they don't. Trim's up. Put in the insulation this morning and installed the trim. The only thing I need to do now is put some screws in that flange on the bottom of the door for the weather strip. Otherwise, it's done on the inside. I got a couple things to do on the outside. Diane's here. She's got her curtain.
Well, I have an idea, and I just want to check something just for grins and giggles.
Grins and giggles. That's a Minnesota thing. So, we like all the light that comes in from that door. And she was looking at some kind of a film that you could put over it. But that's going to block light. And then if she puts curtains up, it's going to block light. And boy, it's just nice to have all this sunlight come.
Open. Close. Open. Close. You want me to do that one more time so you know how it's done?
I think that's...